to a story that was written long ago about a kingdom on a mountain and the valley far below. On the mountain was a treasure buried deep beneath the stone, and the valley people swore they'd have it for their very own. Go ahead and hate your neighbor, go ahead and cheat a friend. Do it in the name of heaven, you can justify it in the end. There won't be any trumpets blowing come the judgment day, on the bloody morning after. One tin soldier rides away.
We begin our study by considering the two movies that naturally serve to establish the series' protagonists as fully realized characters: Ernest Goes to Camp and Billy Jack. I pose to you this simple question. All along in plain sight, has Ernest Goes to Camp been the same movie as Billy Jack, perhaps as passed down in the oral histories of children through the decades? Comparing the two films, scene after scene, plot point after plot point, image after image, it reads like an extension of our lightning round from before. In his eponymous movie, Billy Jack defends a freedom school on an Indian reservation. In Ernest Goes to Camp, Ernest works for and eventually fights for a youth camp, Camp Kikaki, on Indian land. The Freedom School is populated by a diverse group of free-thinking students seeking spiritual awakening and a better way. Camp Kikaki houses children from various walks of life who are there to learn the path of the brave. The students at the school face all types of prejudice from the nearby townsfolk, city council, and law enforcement. The second chance campers, of whom Ernest takes charge, face prejudice from the other campers, the counselors, and the Institute for Juvenile Delinquents, where they normally live. The Freedom School students are bullied in an ice cream parlor by bigoted youths from town. Billy Jack intervenes heroically, and he is ultimately beaten up by a mob of townsfolk. The Second Chancer boys are bullied in the mess hall by other campers. Ernest intervenes heroically and is ultimately beaten across the face with a food tray and crushed under a soda pop machine. The Freedom School students find fulfillment and redemption through all manner of arts and creativity. The Second Chancer boys find their redemption and purpose once they become invested in a creative project of constructing an authentic teepee. The antagonist Posner in Billy Jack is a wealthy man who is the true power in town, exhibiting his corruption and arrogance by taking a group of subordinates to a canyon on the reservation to illegally gun down a herd of wild mustangs. His replacement brother, also named Posner, in the trial of Billy Jack, organizes a large group of corrupt corporate executives and politicians on a decadent hunting trip on stolen land, where they too demonstrate their aloof arrogance by shooting bottles held up by nude women. In Ernest Goes to Camp, the corrupt mining executive Crater is similarly shown purposelessly shooting bottles in his quarry as he opines arrogantly about the land he so covets. On the side of good, Billy Jack learns the ways of the Indian from an elderly Native American man who is referred to only as grandfather, who does not speak English and who is later framed for a crime with falsified documents. Now, Ernest is one of only two people who can communicate with the elderly Chief St. Cloud, who is Nurse St. Cloud's grandfather, who doesn't speak English, and who is tricked into signing away his land. In Billy Jack, there are 3 scenes in which Billy and his friends visit the hospital. In camp, Ernest visits his friend Nurse St. Cloud to have his injuries treated in the medical cabin 3 times. At a low point, Billy Jack lectures a sulking young man feeling sorry for himself about the concept
Well, mental toughness
of
is the
mental
ability
toughness.
to accept the fact that you're human and that you're going to make mistakes, lots of them, all your life. And some of them are going to hurt people that you love very badly. But you have the guts to accept the fact that you're imperfect, and you don't let your mistakes crush you and keep you from trying to do the very best that you can.
A lot of good I could have done.
You sure could have. You could have gone inside and comforted that girl instead of sitting out here on the porch whining and feeling so sorry for yourself.
At a low point, Nurse St. Cloud, on Ernest's behalf, lectures the sulking second chancer boys, feeling sorry for themselves, about what it really means to be
Probably packing his
dumb.
stuff.
He's dumber than a bucket full of hair, ain't he?
You know what dumb is? Dumb is not knowing who your friends are. Ernest is the only person in the world who cared about you. He tried to help you. He stood up for you when nobody else in the world even wanted to know you. Ernest is losing everything he cares about. His home, his job, everything. And all you can think about is what you want.
A running theme in the Billy Jack series, exhibited again and again, is that responding to violence with more violence only serves to give your enemies and the authorities another reason to attack you or to persecute you. You see, by responding with violence, you are surrendering control to your enemy. This happens twice to the second chancer boys, once after the brawl in the mess hall, and a second time after the bullies burned down their teepee. Both times, the second chancer boys retaliate and end up being the ones to be punished and threatened with expulsion back to the Institute. Billy Jack gets into a fight, hopelessly outnumbered, in front of some of his students, partially to exert his dominance over the powerful antagonist Posner. And variations of the same scenario happen elsewhere in the Billy Jack series as well. Ernest picks a futile fight against a hulking opponent to try to prove his masculinity in front of the second chancer boys. In both cases, the protagonist is beaten up brutally. Billy Jack eventually gets troubled teen Barbara involved in his fight, after he murders her father, the deputy. But anyway, they end up both barricaded inside of a church in a standoff with law enforcement. His love interest, Jean, desperately tries to talk the two of them out of fighting any longer, impressing upon Billy that Barbara is just a child who worships the ground he walks on. And Billy retorts that
Everything they want from here on out, they're going to have to take.
when Ernest and the second chancer boys have decided to make war upon the construction crew, Nurse St. Cloud is appalled and desperately tries to talk them out of violence, impressing upon Ernest that the campers are but children and they will get killed fighting against grown men. And Ernest retorts,
They ain't gonna get this camp.
while Billy Jack does eventually surrender, over the course of his rampage he is fired upon by 3 different parties, Bernard Posner, Deputy Mike, who's Barbara's father, as we said, and the stage troopers outside the church. During the Battle of Camp Kikaki, Ernest is fired upon 3 times by Crater. Even though Billy is wounded, he is kept alive by his Indian medicine bag, which contains all of his power, without which he would be vulnerable as any other man. Even as Ernest is shot at from smaller and smaller distances, he is unharmed in accordance with the mysticism of the ceremony of the blade, stone, and arrow, a test of his faith, courage, and purity. Ernest sings a song, Gee, I'm glad it's raining. It is a beautiful, heartfelt song sung by a sweet, sweet man. Rather than try to compare it to any of the numerous songs sung by characters in Billy Jack, I would instead focus our attention to the chorus.
I thought I had found someone I could count on till the end. What they wanted was a hero. All I needed was a friend.
I thought I had found someone I could count on till the end. What they wanted was a hero. All I needed was a friend. The dramatic conclusion of Billy Jack features a Billy entrenched inside an old church, debating with Jean the merits of fighting or of surrendering. Billy sees himself as destined since birth by his unbounded rage to die violently in his never-ending war against injustice. Jean rebukes him for this false idea of heroism, saying,
So easy for you to die dramatically. It's a hell of a lot tougher for those of us who have to keep on trying.
Jean ultimately prevails, drawing out from the ordinarily stoic Billy an expression of love. Love for her and love for the kids at the school. He is filled with love, not just rage, and it is this love that is most vital to everyone. Like Billy Jack, Ernest and the Second Chancer boys are stuck with the false belief that a man, Ernest in this case, is valuable for his strength alone, and that when he inevitably fails, he loses his worth. But as they learn, an individual's value lies instead in his love and friendship, his loyalty, his steadfastness. Only by banding together in love as friends and allies can we have any hope to prevail over hate. That, you see, that is the message of Billy Jack and of Ernest Goes to Camp. And both stories end with a procession as children salute their friend and hero with a symbol they learned earlier in the film. Now, any reasonable person would surely be convinced by now of the spiritual equivalence of these two movies.
Most people think that's a bunch of crap.
But if you still have doubts, I have one final gambit, an ace left unplayed, if you will. One last revelation of the cosmic oneness. Consider this. For his initiation ceremony to be brother of the snake, Billy Jack incites a rattlesnake to bite him, and immediately afterwards teaches a congregation a dance of friendship. Ernest incites another reptile, his pet turtle Pokey, to bite him, and immediately afterwards instructs his campers to sing Happy Together, unmistakably and undeniably a song of friendship.
Seems like the harder I try, the worse things get. I like the boys, but I don't think they like me.
But show no fear, or you shall die.
Mr. Tipton's chewed me out twice. I guess I had it coming, but it's still no fun, old man. This business is harder than I thought. But it's what I want to do. Come on, Pokey. I need to talk to somebody. I know you're dormant, cold-blooded, and all that. Ow! Ow! Oh, Pokey! Ow! You heartless beast! Ow! Oh, my sinuses, Pokey. You said you'd never do this again. Ow!
You got a turtle in your nose, man.
Oh, no. It's a zip. It comes back every now and then.
Hey, come on, fellas. We can jerk that sucker off there in just a second.
Yeah.
No. The only way to get him up is to sing him to sleep.
Okay, guys, come on.
And lastly, you must learn the dance.
A one, two,
The dance of
three.
friendship and welcome, in which all whites who come to you...
No matter how they toss the dice, it had to be. The only one for me is you, and you for me. So happy together.
So how is the weather?
Check and mate. Know what I mean?
No, man, what are you doing, Ernest?
Path of the brave. Know what I mean?